Previous weeks and months has seen the Independent National Electoral Commission meeting key stakeholders as the nation prepares for the 2023 general elections, as well as the conduct of by-elections and governorship elections in Ekiti and Osun states. This time, the INEC chairman is meeting with reporters to give them an update on the continuous voter registration exercise. For the period under review, registrations came to about 2,523,458. A table shared by the INEC chairman shows how states performed with invalid registration coming to 1,126,359.
Since the resumption of the CVR exercise, millions of eligible citizens have availed themselves of this online pre-registration facility, as well as the physical registration in our state and local government offices nationwide, to register, update their records, or transfer their registration to other places where they wish to vote in future elections.
While the number of invalid registration, according to the INEC chairman, is no good news to the commission, he threatens to sanction staff and registrants who aid re-registration processes.
This development is worrisome because of the time and resources expended in handling these cases. Even more disturbing are the strong indications that some of our staff may be complicit in facilitating these infractions, notwithstanding the stern warnings.
And then he speaks on preparations for the forthcoming 2023 elections, especially in the face of security challenges in the country.
The truth is that someone has to secure the environment for INEC to conduct elections. And we have been speaking to the security agencies. But we are doing our own bit based on our constitutional and legal mandate to conduct elections.
Done with the speeches, the chairman, in the company of other commissioners, unveils the distribution of voters' cards. The commission is hoping that all political parties are able to conduct all primaries within the 52 days provision by the Electoral Act.
Thank you very much.
Recruiting the next set of leaders demands the responsibility of every single one of us. And we have a recruitment agency, which is INEC, and of course, every one of us have our own roles in that. Paul James joins us this morning. He's Program Manager Elections at Yiaga Africa. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mr. James. Well, most certainly, this is something that everyone has been concerned about for quite a while, dusting up the voter register. And INEC chairman, as you heard there, is raising serious flags concerning double registration being one of those contributing factors that may make or mar the elections. First of all, what are your initial thoughts on that?
Thank you for the invitation and good morning, Nigerians. I think for me, first off, is also looking at the statistics of invalid registration. The first thing that comes to mind, I'm not looking at the negative but the positive, to say I see commitment on the part of Nigerians to be part of this process. Whatever may have happened along the line, INEC was very clear about the suspicion for complicity on the part of its own staff. But then look at the statistics across the states and also the trend. You will realize that most of these concerns are from the southern geopolitical zone. What does that tell us? I think for me it's also to show the commitment on the part of people from that part of the country to get involved in the process. We should also not forget about how this entire process started from June the 28th. In the initial stages of the process, there were also challenges with people accessing INEC offices, because then I think it was mandatory that people have to pass through the online registration. I'm saying that because we had observers on ground at Yiaga Africa that we deployed to observe the CVR exercise. And the first few weeks of the exercise, they raised concerns about INEC officials insisting that people will have to complete the online pre-registration before they engage the physical registration. Now think about the technology challenges around doing this thing. I also think about people that are not also technology savvy to really apply themselves to going through the online pre-registration phase. And also when this process started as well, even for the INEC equipment that were used for the exercise, the INEC voter enrollment devices, we saw challenges with the delays in processing voters, and in some places, INEC officials telling you that they don't have access to the device because, of course, the codes have changed over time and all of that. But even as the process started, I mean, we saw also commitment on the part of many Nigerians. We had reports in the first 6 months of the exercise of Nigerians both engaging in voter education exercise and also going out to these INEC local government registration centers to get registered. What came to mind yesterday when I saw the figures from INEC was the fact that I thought we should have passed those figures that INEC actually published yesterday. I thought we should have been hitting like 5 to 10 million by now because of the sort of commitment I saw on the part of Nigeria, the voter registration effort also I see on the part of INEC officials. But here we are. Now compare this also to the previous exercise. You go back to the 2010 exercise, which was done, I think, under a period of 6 weeks or thereabout, started about December of 2010 and ended towards the end of January or February, early February of 2011. And over 73 million Nigerians were registered in that exercise. Well, after the cleanup, INEC said the cleanup, and I mean, they deleted about 4 million Nigerians. For the 2019 election as well, if you go back to the statistics, INEC registered 50 million Nigerians between April of 2017 and August of 2018. So it begs the question, what is really happening? Do we need system audit, or is it that INEC has finished? We have had enough, a lot of Nigerians have registered for this exercise now, that between when the process started in June and in April of this month, INEC is telling us that only roughly about 2.5 million Nigerians have registered, and 1 million of those were invalid registrations. So those were the questions that were agitating my mind yesterday. And then if it is about doing system audit, I know they are beginning to talk about their staff, I mean the concerns around the staff and encouraging double registration. But if you also need to do system audit or go back to the traditional way of everybody coming to the INEC registration centers to get registered, I think the time is now to begin to think about going through those, going back to apply those processes.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about, you know, issues boggling our minds. And for me, this morning is the fact that, yes, we had 84 million registered voters in the build-up to the 2019 elections. INEC seems to be projecting that we'll have maybe 90 million for the 2023 election. So that's a difference of, what, 6 million or thereabouts. But on election day proper, what you find is totally different. Yes, we say that 50% of our population, we have young people as 50%. So at least we should have 100 million young people registered already. But on election day, as it were, you realize that those coming out to really vote for our leaders across levels are less than 40 million. And that's a question that bogs my mind. So yes, while there needs to be a lot of work in terms of registering people, what is the point of all that registration of 84 million, 90 million, when only about 40 million, less than 40 million actually come out to vote?
Well, I think for me, first, let's not limit participation to just election day. Participation begins from when the voter even approach INEC officials for voter registration. And so the engagement also continues beyond election, that is holding elected leaders to account. But going back also to the figures from 2019, 84 million, did we really have 84 million registered voters? And we shouldn't also forget that in that election, according to INEC figures, 72 million collected PVC. So that election was based off the 72 million Nigerians that had collected their their PVC. Now, even for the election, we saw an election day that the figure that INEC had released, the 84 million Nigerians, if you go back and put together the number of registered voters from all of the polling stations, you realize that there was a difference of about 1.6 million. The total figure was about 82 million. I knew that because we deployed observers and were able to get those voter registration figure. But then, what does that tell us? Do we also need to begin to talk about the audit of the voters register so that I will know in specific the actual number of voters that we have in our register? I'm happy that INEC is now talking about automated biometric identification system where they can use that to clean up the register. We used to have the office in the past. Maybe we need to start to have those conversations. But then beyond that, talking about citizen participation, it is because we have made the mistake over time of looking at participation to just election, limiting participation to election day. And most of these voters, they come on election and begin to tell you that they don't like the option that the option that they had. Most times we'll be hearing this thing that I don't like to hear about the options between the devil and the deep blue sea, but we keep forgetting that participation is broad. It even begins from people engaging the political parties. Party primaries happen at that level. Those who are that's the process where leaders emerge, and then they get presented for people to vote for in the national election. So most times we limit that to just election. They're not looking at those other options that people have to engage. Just the options for the parties that we have, people don't love those options. People can think of also starting up their own parties or their own movement.
Yes, on that same issue, when you say the citizens should engage the parties, question would be how? There are members of the societies of the various communities in each of these political parties, and they come up with these options anyway. So if you say that the people are left, you know, with the option between the devil and the deep blue sea, it's either they choose one or they choose one, because at the end of the day, whether you vote or you don't vote, you have voted. So in terms of engaging the political parties, is there a role for the citizens, and how is that role to be implemented?
First, the constitution of the country also allows people that have met the constitutional requirement to set up their own parties. Sadly, we don't have options for independent candidates in our constitution. If people are not happy with the options that we currently have, people can start their own movement, they can start their own political parties. Now, as for engaging the political parties, parties come to the people with, most times, their manifestos, which later translate into the policy for the party when they get elected in government. Challenge the people based on those sort of options that they are presented. Or otherwise also, even for the options that the parties have, challenge them on that, on that regard. Come on, we've not passed all the issues that parties used to present us with. We are going to fix road and all of that, to discussing ideas. What concrete steps do parties have to address the challenges that confront us all as a people? Those are some of the hard questions that I expect to see people engage in political parties.
Do you see a situation, Mr. James, where,
people...
Just 1 second, Mr. James, if you can hear me. Do you see a situation where the people can go back to that political party and say, we don't like your option? Not before voting day. Not before voting day. Yes, that's the thing. Not before voting day. After their primaries, do you see a situation where the parties are going to, the citizens will say, we don't like this option. We don't want you to fill this option in the general election. We want you to repeat your primaries or change this option for us. Do you see that happening?
Well, I don't think some of these processes will be reversed if they had been concluded, especially because we are working within a timeline. We are working within a window for the election. For instance, INEC had released a timeline for the party primaries. It begins from this April to the 3rd of June. Every other party should have concluded its processes by then. If anybody
what use then would be engaging the political parties. Mr. James, if you can hear me, on what basis then? Of what use is engaging the political parties if their choice cannot be changed after the primaries, if the people say they don't like that option? It's still between the devil and the deep blue sea, just as you said.
But we are all saying the same thing. The point is, the engagement starts today. We don't limit engagement to the election day. Different options are coming up now. Different people are indicating their interest to participate in the politics of 2023. Are people paying attention to that? a lot of time we limit this engagement to social media. Some of them are beginning to go down to the people to meet with the people. Of course, I feel those are the level that this engagement will need to start happening. And then before the party primaries, if the options are there for people to also join these political parties, since that is where these elections are going to happen, or if it is through the delegate system that is also going to happen, people will need to also start speaking to this delegate to ensure that the option that they feel is best for them, the option that they think by extension is best for the country, are the option that the parties are putting forward for the election.
Well, let's wind down now. Okay, so I'm a Nigerian watching this program, and I realize, wait a minute, we're just about 10 months to the 2023 elections, and I've not been doing quite a lot in actively participating. Let's end with this action point. Let's hit the nail on the head. What do I need to do when I'm done with this show to actively engage?
I think we are doing it already. We just need to increase the tempo of what we are doing. It's just simple. Voter education is not rocket science. Voter information is not rocket science. As simple as telling people the dates for the election, for instance, or where to even go and vote, or the process of collecting their permanent voters card, for instance. We have helped the process. We have done voter education. Yesterday, INEC told us that they have released, or they are over.
Okay. Okay, I think you took me literally, Mr. Isaac. Pardon me. You took that question literally. Pardon me. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the Nigerian out there. I'm not talking about Kayode, the journalist. The Nigerian watching us who wants to engage. What do they need to do to engage?
Kayode, that a lot of ways to engage. One is we still have the opportunity for voter registration between now and the end of June. For the permanent voters card that are ready as well, we can also help the process by telling people where on how to go pick up the voters card. We should not also forget that INEC is also very careful about this. INEC will tell you we are doing the process is about collection of PVC and not distribution of PVC. So the voter, for instance, need to also know that they need to go and locate the INEC office to pick up their voters card. They said after the holiday period, the Easter period holiday, INEC is going to start distributing the cards that were ready for the registration that happened between the first and second quarter. And also for people that have done their own transfer. So as simple as telling people, go pick up your voters card. We have helped the process. We have helped in the participation.
Okay.
And what we have also
Mr. James, I'm really sorry. We've run completely out of time. I hope this information is available on Twitter. So, from Yiaga Africa, so that we can go and...
Twitter is not the only space we have for engagement.
I know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right, well, we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation this morning. Paul James is Program Manager Elections, Yiaga Africa. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you very much, yeah.